Hi there. Thanks a lot for staying with us here on Prime Morning. It's still News Flash. This morning proudly brought to you by Franco Trading Enterprise, still phones Papa Pafie, Koa Natural Fruit Juice, also supporting us as well. Your messages are welcome. Send it to us on our WhatsApp line. We're streaming live on Facebook. You can also drop your messages over there. I'll be reading some of your messages in a couple of minutes. But we're getting into the very big conversation this morning, and it has to do with the former Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Yesterday, he went for the hearing and it's been adjourned, but we're going to find out exactly what that means in terms of our socio-political stance as a people. Some people are asking questions. Why is he putting himself through all of the things that he's putting himself through? Other people also believe that, well, he has to, because coming back to Ghana is not a good decision to make. But how does that also affect us as a people when we want accountability and we want people who actually sit in offices or public offices account for whatever they have done when their time is up? We'll be looking at all of that here on the show. So, yes, let me introduce my guest in the studio. I've got Mr. Lom Nuku Ahijah here with me this morning. He's a law lecturer and energy analyst. We'll also be joined by Amanda Clayton Esquire. She's also MSc African Politics, Swiss London. And then we would have Kojoga Adawudu also joining us. He's a member of the NDC legal team. And if we have them on Zoom, we'll also put them on for them to share their opinion on it. But, Lom, we all expected that, whatever it is, because at the end of the day, he's in detention, he's going to be processed to court and all of those things. We knew that we were going to get to that point and all that. But yesterday, the entire process, getting into the courtroom, having to go through the process of the public hearing, decision that the lawyers decided that, we take this whole thing from. The entire process for you, what was going through your mind watching the entire process?
Well, nothing that happened was strange or a surprise to me, and I'm sure to my other colleagues who will be joining as well, because from a legal perspective, it is the presumption is that all processes or all proceedings should be in the open, right? But you always reserve the right to make a request that it should be heard in camera, which a court has to determine whether the basis for the request is good enough to allow that it be heard in camera. And the reason is because transparency is key in judicial proceedings. So, as I said, the default is for it to be heard openly, for everybody who is interested to know what's going on, because these are matters of public interest and record. Okay. But I think in this case, from what I've seen so far that's been put out, the court actually agreed with the application and indeed allowed the proceedings to then move in camera because of certain sensitive information that the lawyers put forward as the basis for the request. And so it's a choice that is available to any person who is before a court in such circumstances and has believes that their matter shouldn't be heard. And so that's what happened. So I wasn't surprised about that. But of course, we see that as far as this particular conversation is concerned, Ghanaians are very interested because even though this is taking place in the US, we want to know.
Social media was crazy. Everybody wants to know what is going to happen on that.
Exactly. We want to know because it is about an impending trial in Ghana concerning Ghana and resources related to Ghana. So we are very much interested. But it is also good to point out that in terms of law, the former finance minister has all these things available to him to resist coming to Ghana. There's absolutely nothing wrong from a legal perspective for him to be asserted his right not to come to Ghana. But of course, we want him to come to Ghana. So that's why through the current case that the OSP has put before the court related to the SML matter, he has, through the Attorney General, made an extradition request to the US for the former finance minister to be brought back to Ghana to face those charges. But we have to separate that conversation from what happened yesterday. Because what happened yesterday is not about extradition. What happened yesterday? Yes, that's an immigration issue. So that is two separate proceedings and they have two separate implications and processes and so on. So I know social media was hoping that after the end of it all, that he will become, but he has a right to challenge all those things, and that's what he's doing. So from what I've seen, the court did adjourn to the 27th of April, which means that for now, to the best of my knowledge, he remains in custody.
He's still going to be at a detention.
Yes, still going to be at a detention center pending that dates and further determinations. Of course, from the media landscape so far, I've seen different kinds of reporting, and the actual transcript is not available as at now. So what I'm thinking is that even though some have said it's a bond rehearing, some have said it's continuation of the determination of the status and so on, I think bottom line, he's just using those procedures available to him through his lawyers to make it as difficult as possible for him to be removed and brought back to Ghana.
We're going to get to the other aspect of it. Some people believe that it would have been better off being in Ghana than going through all the embarrassment, as they put it, that is going through. We'll look at that. But let me go on the Zoom and speak to Amanda. She's also joining us on Zoom this morning. If you can hear me, Amanda, good morning.
Good morning.
Great. I'm grateful for your time this morning, and I hope you're good.
I am. Thanks for having me on.
Great. I want to find out from you your initial, remarks when you saw the proceedings the way it did, and also he requesting that he takes the public hearing thing off, because WebEx was full of many people who found themselves there one way or the other, and he and the lawyer actually decided that this is the way they want to go with this. Were you surprised that he requested that they do it, the public thing?
Not at all. I think either side is allowed to request, and given his circumstances, his lawyer is arguing that the privacy interest is outweighs the public interest, basically.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. Okay, so moving forward, what do we look out for? The case has been adjourned. He's going to be in detention center for a while now. Between that time that he's going to be, in detention before he goes back again, what should Ghanaians or the Attorney General and the other team be looking out for? Is there something that we have to be looking out for?
Well, I think that because his visa has been revoked, do you see what I mean? His position is not as strong as had his visa been present. Do you see what I mean? So the issue that his visa has been revoked means that even if he is challenged in this, a decision may have already been taken to a certain extent, because to revoke his visa is a sign that extradition may be imminent.
You've been following this case. A lot of people believe that he's supposed to have just come to Ghana and serve or go through whatever process that we needed to put him through, instead of going through what he's going through right now. Do you think that if he had come here, his chances would have been way better than what we're experiencing now?
I think the embarrassment would have been spared. But again, his legal defense in America is that he's being persecuted in Ghana by this government. And so should he show up, he's not going to get a fair trial. So the basis of him not showing up is he's not going to get a fair trial.
All right. Let me get back to Amanda. Please stay with me. I'll come back to you again. But lawyer, let's find out. If you were his lawyer, from what we have seen so far, would you still want him to continue even after whatever that has been decided? Because don't forget, this is an immigration issue. So if he goes through the immigration and everything goes on in his favor, if you were his lawyer, would you say that, okay, now that we're done with this immigration thing, come to Ghana and let's go through every process we need to go through in Ghana and save ourselves all this?
Well, of course, to give you a good answer, if I was his lawyer, it means that I should have full cognizance of the facts, which, of course, he would have informed his lawyers about that, so that they know more than we know. Because everything that we know is based on what the media has put out, which may not be the full picture, which is the reason why in every case in court, when the two sides speak, eventually you're able to find the equilibrium. The judge makes a decision based on that. And so if I did have the full facts, I could advise him to make a decision. But let's be clear, at all material times, it is the client that makes a decision. The lawyer, your job is to advise the client to evaluate the advice and make a determination on which route or which choice they want to make. You can't indeed force your client to take a particular position. The client makes the decision. And so with that in mind, what it means is that everything that we've seen happening so far in the US proceedings and everything related to even before the arrest and detention suggests that the former finance minister has been engaging with his lawyers. They've given him options. He's made choices, and the lawyers are executing the choice. Yeah, so that's how it works. You can't choose for your client. Your client makes a decision, and you execute. So it means that everything we've seen suggests that the former finance minister is not ready to come to Ghana now. Or he will come at his own time when perhaps he thinks that whatever conditions or situation he expects to exist. You recall that in the beginning, what we heard, at least from his lawyers here in Ghana, was that it was a health-related matter. So
we haven't seen any since this whole thing started, this detention thing started. In fact, a lot of people were even thinking that somebody in such condition put in the detention, but then they said that they qualify that, he has no any health issues that could
bar him from getting
into the detention center.
That's true. And even in a detention center, if there's any health issue that comes up, of course, they have facilities in place to attend to him and so on. But it is clear that in the beginning, it was the health that was the reason for not coming to Ghana to engage the OSP and so on, if you recall.
Yeah.
But since then, I think along the way, we also did get an update that he had gone through some procedure and schedule of that. So perhaps he's recuperating from that or has recuperated from that. So perhaps the situation has changed now, which is why I'm saying, so long as we see what is happening in court, the kind of things that the lawyers are doing, the kind of arguments they're advancing, the way it works, it means that the client has authorized that action because the lawyers are only executing, they are agents for the client. So the client is the one resisting this process. And also you recall that before this proceeding came up, we also heard that the former finance minister has made a request for an adjustment of status. Yes, because when you are doing an adjustment of status, it means that he wants to change from his status as a B1, B2 holder, a visa holder, which is a visitor's visa, which is the one that once you enter the US, you have up to 6 months. You have to go out, otherwise you can't stay in. It means that you've overstayed. And in fact, from reports so far, it looks like we can see from ICE that it is the overstay that they are talking about, even though we've also heard about a revocation. But I see from ICE's own information that they've put out that it is about an overstay, right? So substantively, yesterday, what happened, as I said, because it related to bond hearing and determination of the bond, that has not touched on the substantive issue. His substantive position, which he was advancing, which we know the lawyers are going to argue, is that he's adjusting his status, which means that if the adjustment of status is accepted, he will move into a different category. Now, what are the other options? Maybe he's applying to have a permanent residence, for example, which if he gets, then he doesn't have to deal with visa issues and obviously can come to Ghana whenever he wants. Exactly. So we have to kind of separate the issues a bit to make it clearer what is happening. And I'll say that so far, I think that everything shows that he's not ready to come now.
Lawyer, prior to we get into where we are right now, the Attorney General had made some steps. In fact, we started from putting on the alerts.
Red notice.
Exactly. Yeah. And then now we moved into contacting the U.S. for extradition and all of those things. Now that they have seen this court proceedings ongoing right now, is there anything they can also, put forward again and say, you know what, we understand he may be able to work out with this, but we need this man back at home. So is there any processes they need to now follow and ensure that even after this, we still have him back home?
Well, as far as the Ghana side is concerned, I think they've already done what they need to do, which is they formally, through diplomatic channels, made an extradition request to the U.S. So that has been received by the U.S. as far as we know. And that process will go on independent of the immigration one, because the extradition one is ultimately a process that leads to a determination by the Secretary of State whether to grant it or not. So now that, for example, we've seen that it's an adjournment to April, it means that as far as the immigration side of the issues are concerned, it's on hold, because we have a next date.
Yeah.
Between now and then, the extradition processes also can go ahead, but that's an independent process, different from this one, which the Department of Justice, the U.S., will also pursue. Of course, I think Amanda alluded to this point earlier, the fact that he is arguing certain grounds. And of course, the law allows him to also challenge the extradition as well, because he can advance arguments in favor of his position that perhaps he's not likely to get a fair trial in Ghana, there's an asylum issue, more treated and so on, which a court will determine in the US as well and make its findings. And ultimately, the Secretary of State has the mandate and power to make a decision as to whether to extradite him or not. You recall, even Ghana recently, we also received similar requests from the US to extradite some persons involved in romance scams and so on. And we also went through our processes, and we eventually did the extradition. Currently, the Abu Trika one is also going on as well. Yeah. And so it is normal in these proceedings for challenges and all of that to happen. So for me, and I'm sure for my colleagues...
It looks like we're always swift to do ours for them, but theirs always become a problem. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
and somebody would say that's the US for you, but I mean...
I get your point. I get your point.
Maybe we'll explore that, but let me speak to Amanda briefly as well. Amanda, if you can hear me, let me find out. What are his chances? You have followed this for a long time. If he's able to walk through the immigration issue and then he's able to get to the status adjustment and all of that, it means that possibly we may not see him in Ghana anymore.
Yes, but I do believe that there is a sensitivity involved. For instance, you just mentioned that we do theirs quickly in terms of extradition. That has only been a recent thing in terms of 2024. We saw an unprecedented amount of people being sent back to America. So I personally believe there's a deepened relationship going on between US and Ghana for extradition based on, quote unquote, two big fish. You know, the first Ofori-Atta case, and then the second, the lady that was, I think, indicted for like a 10-year sentence.
Yeah.
So I do think there is something going on in the background in terms of Ghana expressly sent people in 2025, everybody they wanted back, more or less, they got. And so at a federal level, that's why the Ghana government has said there will be no pushback for these two coming back. But then also, it depends on the judge he's in front of, who may believe in due process and that this is an exceptional case. But from a government-to-government level, I do believe an arrangement has been made that these two should be returned.
In terms of ICE and what they're doing currently, deportation and all of that, this court proceedings that we're witnessing right now, Ken obviously has flouted. Is it possible that based on all of those things, he'll be sent back home, deported? Is it possible we get to that point?
Well, government revocation of his visa, ironically, doesn't create a contradiction. A visa can be withdrawn unilaterally, regardless of his adjustment status. So he can go ahead with that. But I believe from a federal level, we're talking about US government, US law enforcement, Ghana law enforcement, and Ghana government. It's been agreed. But the only thing slowing it down is this judge. And if this judge feels as if this is a genuine persecution case, for instance.
How long are we likely going to see this go or maybe drag? I mean, now we have to go to April. I'm not too sure about what the next sitting will be looking like, but is it possible that we may even end up spending like 6 months or maybe a year on this case?
Possibly, but it just depends on how the judge is going to interpret it. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a criminal that should be returned per se, or potential criminal, or this is a persecuted individual that ticks all the boxes and is facing medical care that he needs and therefore should stay and have an adjustment of status. You know? So the government is doing one thing in Ghana, I mean, in the US, but the federal judges, some of them are still thinking, we don't know what this government is doing, but we will do what US immigration law says.
Okay, I'll get back to you now. So it means that, lawyer, it means that you can't influence this in any way from your point of view of how you understand the reason why he's where he is. The federal judge can take a year or 6 months or whatever it is to study whatever they want to study to go on with the case. And you can't influence it in any way.
No, you can't. Just like you can't influence it in any way in Ghana as well. Because in law, as far as even though you have your substantive rights, you also have your procedural rights. The procedure is part of rights available to accused people, right? So you being able to use that process is part of the rights that you have.
Okay.
And so if a process has to take a year or two, so be it. So long as you are following processes that their rules provide that you should follow. That's what I'm saying, that it is not strange for us to see the kinds of arguments that are being advanced or the kind of requests that, for example, his lawyers made and so on. It is allowed. That's why they can do it. And so to the extent that the rules permit them to challenge the processes, appeal the processes and so on, it can go on for a year, even more than a year even. It's very, very possible. And it's part of what is available to him. But I want to take a step back and really separate these two issues. What is going on currently is immigration related. So with immigration related, the determination leads to a deportation or otherwise. But that is separate from the extradition request. This distinction is really important because everything that relates to what Ghana has done is about extradition.
And not immigration
at all. So this one really, how he was arrested, and it has nothing to...
like.
The only reason why, as you say, a fire say it will, at the end of the day, possibly bring him back. Which is bottom line, let's say what...
Or the easiest way, or the fastest way to do it.
That's what OSP is looking for when they trigger the process for the extradition. Bottom line, it wants the gentleman to return to Ghana. So if a deportation achieves that, once he gets to Ghana, he'll be arrested right at the airport, if it's a deportation. In fact, deportation even is possible that he could come already restrained, of course, even
handcuffs.
though, yes, in handcuffs. And it's also possible for you to do a voluntary deportation where you can choose yourself that I'm ready to go back and you can go back on your own.
So he's got these options available.
Yes, of course. You recall, for example, in the Ahijah for real matter, when she served her term, one of the applications that her lawyers did closer to the end was that they requested the court to allow her to voluntarily deport because they were going to do it anyway. Once you finish your term, they're just going to harm. But if you choose to make the application, what it means is that you want to do it on your own terms. Yes, a more dignified manner. So as far as the immigration proceedings are concerned, we are looking for what will enable us get him. So if deportation brings him to Ghana, OSP will be happy. His case in court about the SMO matter will continue with the former finance minister's presence here. But the extradition is a separate proceeding, as I indicated, which is what we haven't seen much of yet. But we do know that Ghana has submitted a request, the US has received the request, and the processes that they need to go through, they will be going through those. But for now, we don't know much about further steps that have been taken in that regard. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. These are things that are available to him, and he's taking advantage of those options. And so from a legal perspective, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But as I said, Ghanaians, we are interested in accountability for his tenure as far as these allegations and charges have been filed in the SML matter. Beyond the SML matter, we do know that there have been hints that there are possibly other other trials that may be carried out. You also know, and let me also perhaps highlight this again, the fact that the current case against the former finance minister in Ghana is an OSP-initiated process. Yeah. So this is an attorney general, which is why when we hear arguments related to, the fear of let's say, the government maltreating and so on and so on. This is an independent institution that's running that particular case. And so, for me, we want to see how this pans out, but trust me, it's possible that it may go beyond a year if he continues to avail himself of the processes that U.S. law allows.
Wow, that's interesting. And I don't know how, but we're going to get to that point. If you just joined us here on the show, this is News Flash segment. It's proudly brought to you by Franco Trading Enterprise, still phones Papa Pafie, Koa Natural Fruit Juice as well. We're looking at the issue of the former minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, and his hearing yesterday, and the adjournment, and possibly what this whole case is going to be looking like in the coming weeks and months, and also what the Ghana OSP and the legal system actually seeks to also get from all of that is happening right now. So yes, I've got in the studio my guest, lawyer Lom Nuku is here with me, and Kojo Adawudu has also joined us this morning. He's a member of the NDC legal team. Amanda Clinton, that's why, is also on Zoom this morning, also helping us with the conversation as well. But let me welcome lawyer. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. It's a pleasure. And a happy new year.
Happy New Year. Good to see you. And thanks for the time this morning.
It's a pleasure being on this platform. I think this is my first time actually on this Joy Prime.
You're welcome.
Yes. So
this is home. So
yeah.
Please come back home more times.
Definitely. We will come.
Great.
And thanks for the work you guys are doing to educate the public more. And because sometimes the disinformation, misinformation that goes on, those are places that Joy is a platform that if you want to look for credibility, you go quickly to check what Joy is saying.
That's true.
And sometimes we equate it to credibility and say that, look, if Joy has reported this, then we can go to town with it. Unlike the other places that you may be so I don't take this platform for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We appreciate you, and I'm grateful for your time this morning as well. Yesterday, we had the court hearing for the former finance minister. I mean, it's been adjourned and all that. But how is the NPP legal team? How are you taking this?
NDC, I think that is a legal process. And for me, the due process, you see, when you don't really have a case hanging or an albatross hanging around your neck, you always take due process for granted. Due process is the name. You can have a case, but when the due process is not followed properly, at the end of the day, your case may not travel very well because there might be issue. And when it comes to, like my learned colleague has pointed out, there are two distinctions when it comes to the extradition and it comes to the
immigration.
The immigration
as well.
There are two things. The immigration means that you may have violated some of the laws as to your status, as to your stay, and as to your identity within the immigration laws. But extradition is a formal process which the communications between the two governments. It's a formal process that we want an assistance. This is when we want somebody to come and face, especially a fugitive, to come and face justice. So the only reason why when it goes to extradition that it takes long time is that they want to follow due process. And the only exception where a country may not want to send the person back to his country is that when there are political reasons and they feel it is going to be political persecution against an opponent, that is the only reason and condition when the country will not oblige the other country to bring him. But this particular case we are hearing It is about his immigration status and violation, where we've been told that it has been revoked. So if it's been revoked as we speak, that means that he's an illegal immigrant, right?
Yeah.
In there. And I think that is the process. For me, I always believe that, yes, in as much as we want him to come to account for his stewardship, he also has the duty to protect his name, protect his descendants, protect his people, his party, that have been called to come and account for my stewardship, and I'm refusing to come. It will go down history and within cascade, right? Because this is a person at the outset or the onset, we were told that he's not being paid. He was not taking salary. He was doing this gratis to the nation. And if you were doing a good job for the nation and they want you to come and account, why will there be issues as to your return saying that it will not be safe? The very country you said, the very country's judicial system you have gone through with all, today, you are saying that you are not too sure.
It is not because of the way the OSP went about the entire process. Maybe it was a bit rigorous and it interpreted itself to him as though this is more like a persecution than a prosecution.
No, I think that it's all about communication. Because what he communicated to the OSP and reliance on those information that he has given, and he says that, look, if you have failed on one, then we'll move to the next step. We'll move to the next step. What were we told from OSP? When we're looking for him, even when he left, the circumstances under which he left this country, right? It is sometimes we are not being told. There are some things national security will tell you is classified and the rest. But if you go in deep there, you are a journalist, I will urge you to look at it that he left.
Well, we've heard about how he left and all
this
that small
country.
things.
Now, they said he was going to come back in June. After all the hula baloo and cry, we were told, by no means a person, by the minority leader, that just after his operation or the surgery, he was coming back in June. He never came. Right? And I'm sure it is on those bases that the visa was revoked, as we were told by the Attorney General, that on your own promise and evolution from your legal team and even the minority leader, you said you were going to come. You didn't come. So I'm sure these are the processes that have been followed. Now, so it is for him to do his family, to do himself, and his people good to come. Like we said, with the immigration violation, he could decide to come on his own volition, or the law will put some restraints on him. And until the matter is determined, when there's immigration issues, I'm sure once the law goes through and we see the due process, you have to be. So what are you running away?
By way of accountability, your government wanted this done, just so we all understand that oral is working by way of accountability. What is happening right now, are we pleased that they were taking these steps, which of course is going to be one of the steps that would ensure that we'll bring him back? Because if he goes through and the deportation thing works, it means that he's going to come back to this country.
Yeah, definitely. When he comes back, I don't think it is only the OSP that is looking for him. There have been a lot of transactions that he was at the center of those transactions that they want him to come and account for. It's not only about the SML that they want him to come and account for. Attorney General has told us that there were other issues, offshore accounts, other issues that they are looking into. So the position he occupied, I just wanted to say something in Pidgin. People say, the bigger you are, the big man you make, the bigger the problem. Are you getting? So I think that he had a lot of hands and a lot of pies, and people just want to. And I've always kept saying that allegations against you doesn't mean it's an evidence that you have been found guilty These are allegations. That is why you have the process to defend. Put your case across and say, oh, this is what has been leveled against me. This is my defense to it, right? And I've always been saying that what the ordinary person would see as an evidence against somebody which is compelling, and with that, this man should go to jail. With the legal eyes, sometimes when you look at it, it may be different, right? So why you see that, I'll give you an example. If a document comes now and they said somebody has committed some crime, maybe in last year, they said you committed a crime, right? But the letter is alleging that the crime was committed this year. If the mere fact you look at the dates will tell you that no, if you put the two things, it is not. You will not be able to have conviction. And the Attorney General has made it clear that under his tenure, he will never do anything to put an innocent person to jail. That's also a part of due process to make sure. So I don't see the reason why he won't want to come. But I think that it will inure to his benefit for his own family to come. Because this is a person, when even he resigned as a chairman of the data bank due to ill health, right? Getting to sometime, he joined the occupied Ghana, right? He was vociferous in that when the man visibly, everybody saw that he was not well, and he had gone, the president had given him some leave to go to the United States for medical review, right? He was able to come back for his vetting.
Yeah.
He was able to come back for his vetting. So why are you shifting the goalpost now? Why is the goalpost being shifted now? Have you done anything? You yourself, your conscience tells you that what I have done, I'll be found guilty. Because if you take the pattern by which he had served this nation, and we want you to account for that service, and it's becoming a different issue, it tells you that is where the public opinion or court of public opinion would see that no, there is something that this man is trying to hide.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, it affects his party. Because this is your finance minister from your party nominated him, and at the end of the day, because in this history of this country, I've not seen any finance minister. I grew up knowing Kwesi Botwe. After Kwesi Botwe, he stayed in this country. Pepra, he lived in this country. Osafo Mafo, he lived here. It's only Barry do that. May his soul rest in peace. He was also here. All of them. So why is it that today, the finance minister who was supposed to look at our purse and keep the purse and disperse, we are asking, come and account. There are some allegations, come and account. And it's become one story today, another story. To the extent that, you have to be handcuffed. For me, that is a shame. It's very, I won't wish it on my even sworn enemy because it's going to be part of history. It's going to be part of history. My poor dad in the village, I don't think has ever been handcuffed in his life. And I'm proud to say that because he hasn't done anything to even be called before the police or anything. But can you also, your son, say that my dad has never done anything, or my dad was handcuffed for ABCD? These are things that we are living for generation.
Okay.
Yes, and they are indelible marks that will live with us, will live with our conscience, will be part of our history. Is he living a good history for his descendants, his children, his family? These are questions, weighty questions he asks. Yes.
An answer.
Yeah, because...
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll come back to you again. I'll come back to you again. Just take a breather for me. Let me engage lawyer also a bit. There were some people in his party who constantly were saying that he shouldn't come home. David said that if it were him, if it was his lawyer, he would tell him not to even return back to this country in the first place. Those people seeing what is happening to him right now with the handcuff and all of those things, you think is still something they have to still stick to?
Yes, as my senior colleague mentioned, those are weighty questions to be asked and answered. But of course, those are not about the law. We've already talked about the fact that there are substantive and procedural rights that he has, which, of course, he's free to exercise them.
Even when it's bringing you embarrassment, even when it's wiping away almost everything you have achieved for yourself as a person.
That's what I'm saying. Those are legal options. But ultimately, we are judged not on law alone, especially when you're in the political sphere. There are matters. In fact, the implications of the actions of Kenneth Ofori-Atta in this particular case even has implications for his party. You see, because in politics, the evaluation criteria is different from the law. So that's what I'm saying, that legally you may have these options, you may explore them, and you are free to do so. But in the court of public opinion, questions will be asked about the approach you chose and whether it has any impact on how people view, let's say, whether or not he indeed had anything to do or not. Aside that, we also have within our laws the possibility for the trial in Ghana to still be done even in absentia. Even if he is not present, the trial can still proceed. So it is not that it is a limitation as far as law is concerned, just that it is preferable that every accused person has an opportunity to defend themselves and make their own case and defense and so on. And so he has a right to choose. As I said, everything his lawyers are doing, we shouldn't make any mistake about it. It is not the lawyers who have made a decision. It's the client. It is the client that takes the decision. The lawyer can only execute. Because lawyers, we are, simply put, agents for the client. And so when you advise the client, you lay out the options. This is what is available under law to do. And the client will make a decision. When the client makes a decision, then so long as it is not illegal, it's within your law, then the lawyers execute it. So his choices will have an impact on him personally, and it will have an impact, I think, also on his party ultimately, because questions will be asked about why the need to go through all of this if really you have your own case to make, and the case is that you are not guilty. Because mind you, all of these that we've heard so far, allegations, none have been proven in the court of competent jurisdiction.
And he sees them as allegations as well.
Well, yes, the allegations.
As against the facts.
Yes, well.
Because he knows what is.
Yes, he knows what he did.
So allegations as against the fact. Is that how he sees it?
And that's why I mentioned to you earlier that when you asked the question about if I was his lawyer. And I said yes. If I was his lawyer, I would have access to the full facts, including because there are many dimensions of these matters that he would know because he served in the office, in that position. And so perhaps based on all that they know is what they'll give him the options. I don't know what that is, but I'm saying that it is a choice that he has made because the lawyers don't decide for you. As a client, you decide what to do. So once we see this process is going on, we have to believe that he's not ready to come. And as you said, if his party, as people have said that he shouldn't come because you get, well, again, like I said, the implications in political realms may be dire because questions about citizens' view of that action and whether it serves the accountability test are key. Again, we note, for example, that his travel out of Ghana was just a few days before the inauguration of the current administration, which means that he left before the current administration came into office. We've heard subsequently, for example, that the OSP maybe has given us some insights into why they couldn't act then. Yes, because OSP has been...
even updates on that.
And OSP has been in that office before this administration came into office. So why couldn't the former finance minister, for example, be arrested? OSP says the circumstances in the country did not allow him to do that.
That becomes very loud about this issue, about how he was allowed to leave the country and all that.
But that's the thing. At that time, they didn't make that move. And I've seen repeatedly Manasseh make the point about the timelines and so on, because he stresses that fact that perhaps action should have been taken then. Now, once he left the jurisdiction and requests were made, that's when arguments came up in terms of health, I'll come back after the procedure in June. And that was June 2025. See, and now we're in 2026, January. So I'm saying that if you look at everything that's happening, clearly a decision has been made to go a certain route, and there are implications for going that route. So I think it's up to the former finance minister to decide what really will be important to him, because again, as far as these are allegations that have just been put in the form of charges, and he has every right to defend himself, he's free to do so. But he also has a right to say, I won't come, and the trial will be held in absentia. So
from where we stand right now, we may be heading towards a trial in absentia.
Yes, but you see the thing about...
We've seen this before with Sedinam's case.
Yes,
I mean,
you see,
well, she has gotten to a point where she's going to be extradited and all that, but I mean, at the end of the day, 10 years, it's been 4 years already.
Yeah, but the thing is that whilst you are trying absentia, that means that the court is going to make a decision based on what the prosecution puts before the court. You will not have the opportunity to put your defense. You will not have the opportunity to put your defense. And most likely, if you don't put your defense before the court is just going to act on the evidence before it. It's not going to say that I heard this one in the media, I heard this from this person. No, because it is only the evidence of the prosecution that will be. At the end of the day, I would say, you ask about the party, people say they should not come. I think it will do him more disservice, more harm, to say, remain there and don't come. Because at the end of the day, if you go through trial in absentia, and you be convicted, definitely crime has no bar. You will be brought back. Look at Sedinam. Yes, she also started, health issues came in. But at the end of the day, a conviction is hanging, it's an albatross hanging around her neck. Now, while she comes in, she will definitely be arrested. And now you need to get a lawyer, a good lawyer, to go through the process to be able to appeal or get you a bail, right? So why would you, leave that when you were given opportunity to defend, you've not defended, and definitely one day the long arm of the law will catch up with you. That's it. And you see, sometimes I don't want to give some example. The party, when there is a case, the party will follow you. There are devotees who will follow you, give that moral support, solidarity, and the rest. But when the pronouncement is made, it is only you. So I always tell my clients that, be careful. Yes, they will come. Those that don't do this, we will not agree. We will do A, B, C, D. At the end of the day, it is the judge who looks at it. And it's the judge who decides. If the judge decides that you are guilty, you are going in, everybody will disperse to their homes. And your sleeping place will be changed. So sometimes, yes, you have the support, the people will come, but you need to make sure that you yourself, you are able to put it. And don't think about what the party and other people are saying. All they will come and say is travesty of justice, the man has not been handled well at the end of the day. But you are in the gallows. Your family will now going to suffer to be visiting you every day. Your children will not see you. These are all things that when it comes to issues and you think that there are political undertone to it, it gives you the opportunity that, look, let me marshal all my resources and act to be able to clear my name first, your family name, and also defend myself. So at the end of the day, they will see that this is a spirited defense you have put, and at the end of the day, the court comes and says you've been absolved or escapated from all the allegations. What is the beauty about that? You go through it. At the end of the day, people have gone through it and they have come. So why do you think you can go through that you will not be given the same thing? So I think for me, if the party says, oh no, at the end of the day, whilst the party will be in Gabon and others, you are in the gallows. And the stress is going to be on your family. It's going to be on relatives. It's going to be on your friends. I know of a family friend when some other people were in there almost every day. They have to go and visit. And then that brings cost. That brings stress, right? So for me, I think that he has a choice. He has families, and he speaks with his family, and they make all their decisions. This will not be the first or last that it will happen to. It only serves notice that whilst you are in public office, one day you will account for your stewardship.
So we're getting, and I think I still have Amanda on Zoom. So we're getting some indication that the judge actually adjourned the case because he said that he couldn't work without proof of extradition. So basically what he says is, and I quote, he says that the court cannot act on assertions without proof. The judge indicated directing the federal government to file any evidence of an extradition request on or before February 19, 2026. And this actually just came in this morning. So this is where we're getting to with regards to his case right now.
So at the end of the day, it is the due process. The due process we are talking about. That, it's not the speculation allegations, but it is the proof, the evidence put. So now the judge is saying that, yes, you are saying there is extradition.
We have that.
Yes. So maybe the department may not have sent the extradition copies, the document to the court, believing that it is an immigration issue. But now this has come in, and the judge is requesting, if you are saying there is a request for extradition, then let me also have a document to satisfy myself that, yes, but not just to say that there's an extradition document against him. Okay. I think that's what the judge.
All right, lawyer, I'll take your view on that as well. But I mean, this is something that we're getting this morning. Amanda, so now the judge is asking for a proof of evidence for the extradition, because I think that was also mentioned in the court during the proceedings before the adjournment. If we have these two, now we have an extradition, we have an immigration issue. How does the two work together to ensure that at the end of the day we have Ken back here to Ghana?
Well, he's going to look at if there's a valid extradition treaty, between the two countries. He's going to verify the identity, which will be obvious. And he's going to check the extraditable offense. The alleged conduct is a crime in both countries, and the offense qualifies as an extraditable offense. And then he's going to assess the probable cause, and then he's going to certify it that there's a final order.
Does that help our case in any way in terms of how quick we're able to get to the resolution of this matter? Because now we've got two things at play now.
Not necessarily, because he's arguing a persecution defense, but it can't be denied solely on persecution grounds. So the judge is limited to treaty validity, identity, dual criminality, and probable cause.
I want to let you go, but before that, I want to ask you if you were in the position of Kent's lawyers right now, and the judge is asking for an extradition proof to move on with the case, what would be the first thing that you'd be telling Ken now that you're asking for extradition document?
That they would put together all the evidence of persecution as he sees it. You know what I mean? In terms of all the things that are publicly available. Because persecution as a defense normally only works if it's publicly available information, and Ken fits that category. But the only thing I'd like to add is that ordinarily, if someone sees themselves as a criminal, they don't go to an extradition type country or a country that they can be extradited from. Do you see what I mean? So first and foremost, if Ken believed that he had committed crimes and it was going to be pursued, the last place he would go to is the United States. For instance, he'd go to Cuba. which has a non-extradition arrangement, and also has very good medical care. So, these are the first flags that he genuinely may not have thought that this would go this far. And in terms of political persecution, it's timing linked to political change in terms of the government came in. It's public vilification. It's procedural irregularities, absence of formal charges, for instance. And then later, they just kind of brought up the charges. So there's sort of shifting allegations here. And there's all this political rhetoric framing in the case. But ultimately, I think from a government to government level, it has been decided, that the extradition should go ahead. But the judge would be the final determiner of that.
Okay, very well. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Amanda. I appreciate your time with us here on the show. Great. And that's Amanda Clinton joining us. She's a lawyer, and she's representing on Zoom this morning. She couldn't make it to the studio, but she's always been here to help us. Now, lawyer, so now we have gotten to this point where we're asking for proof. Immigration issue. Now he wants an extradition proof. How does that help our case?
Yeah, so when you mentioned, I just checked what you have on my journal line.
Yeah.
So essentially what happened was that even though it's an immigration proceeding, his lawyers requested for bail, which is the right of every person who is in detention in any circumstance has a right to apply for bail. And the response that the federal government did through ICE was that he shouldn't be granted bail because it's an extradition request, which is a separate matter we talked about. Yeah. However, they mentioned the fact that the judge should know that there's another proceeding
again,
which, yes, so don't grant him bail. And the judge says, where's the proof? So that's why the extradition processes and documents will now have to come into this particular immigration.
So in any case, it shouldn't have been involved in the first place.
No, there are two separate proceedings. As I mentioned earlier, with immigration-related matters, the immigration judge is simply determining whether indeed you have a legitimate right to remain in the U.S. or out of the U.S. If you are found not to have a legitimate reason to be in the U.S. because you've breached any of their rules as far as overstay, revocation, and all that are concerned, you'll simply be deported to your country of origin or a third country. The extradition processes are ultimately a political question. As I mentioned, you go through a judicial part where you can make arguments why you should not be extradited and so on. Ultimately, the Secretary of State of the United States will make a determination whether you should be extradited or not at the end of that process. But it came into the immigration one because when his lawyers requested for bail pending the determination of the immigration matter, the federal government also raised the fact that don't grant him bail because he has a pending extradition request from Ghana. So we need to keep him whilst we deal with that as well. Yeah. And the judge is saying, if it is so, I want to see the proof.
So if the proof comes, what's next? Now we're merging the two together at a point.
Not really.
We're still going to do separate.
Yes, because under U.S. law, the distinction between the two cases, and different courts handle them. Immigration matters are handled by different type of courts, and extradition is also handled by different type of courts. So as far as the bail question is concerned in the immigration matter, the judge was to see that. So the judge, obviously, after confirming, can decide that indeed, because of that, I'm not granting the bail, or for X and Y reason, based on what their law permits, I'm still going to go ahead. So it is about the bail issue alone.
Okay. All right. Very well. Thank you. I mean, my time is that, but lawyer, maybe I'll take your last comment on that also as well, and then we'll...
Yeah, my last comment. Let me just give a practical example so that maybe our audience will understand. It's just like maybe I've been taken to court on a case of stealing. So whilst that case, they are going on with it, then they want bail for me. My lawyers have asked. Then the prosecution or the federal says that, oh, he has a case of armed robbery and murder. So the judge says that, oh, I haven't heard of the armed robbery and so if there's any proof that he has a case of armed robbery a murder, then bring it for me to see. That would make me, based on that, I'll make decisions on the bail condition.
Okay.
So I think that is the simplest terms that we can explain that. So there are two different things, but you just want to see evidence why he should be kept in custody or he will be on bail whilst the matter proceeds.
Right. Very well. In the absence of any other thing, maybe we'll say a big thank you to you for coming. Lawyer, I've really appreciated your time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And Lawyer Lom Nuku Ahijah is a law lecturer and energy analyst joining us this morning here on the show. And Lawyer Kwajoga Dawudu also joined us this morning as well from the legal team of the NDC. And Amanda Clinton Esquire also joined us as well, MSc African Politics and SWOS London. And she also joined us via Zoom. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time this morning here on the show. And a big thank you to you who also did the watching and contributed. Unfortunately, I couldn't read your messages. Please forgive me. Tomorrow when I come, I'll try and do some of your messages here on the show.